It began like any other adventure. 9 young students, full of life and excitement, eager to explore the beaches of Oaxaca. They had planned the trip for weeks, mapping out their journey, talking about the places they would visit, the memories they would make. But what started as an innocent getaway turned into a nightmare beyond comprehension. By March 2nd, 2025, their names were no longer associated with joy or youthful exploration. Instead, they were linked to one of the most gruesome crime scenes Mexico had ever seen. Their dismembered bodies were discovered along the Cuacnopalan-Oaxaca highway, abandoned like a grotesque message written in blood. 4 of them were crammed into the trunk of a vehicle. 5 more lay beneath a tarp, their remains barely distinguishable from one another. A plastic bag containing severed hands completed the horror. Who were these young victims? What had they done to meet such a fate? And perhaps the most chilling question of all, who was behind this unimaginable crime? The search for answers led investigators into the dark heart of organized crime, where betrayals, secrets, and brutal violence dictated the rules of survival. The deeper they dug, the more sinister the truth became. The disappearance. It all started in late February 2025. The victims, 4 women and 5 men, were all from Tlaxcala, a small state in central Mexico. Their ages ranged from 19 to 30, young and full of aspirations. They had decided to take a short trip to Oaxaca, a region known for its breathtaking beaches and vibrant culture. No one expected what would happen next. On February 27th, all contact with the group was lost. Families began to worry. Calls went unanswered. Social media, usually filled with their posts and pictures, suddenly went silent. At first, some assumed they were simply enjoying their time off-grid, maybe relaxing by the ocean. But as the hours turned into days, the silence became deafening. Their families grew desperate. They contacted local authorities, begging for an investigation. But in a country where disappearances are tragically common, their concerns were initially dismissed. Police suggested they may have run off, gotten caught up in something harmless, or simply lost track of time. But the parents knew something was wrong. These were responsible young adults, not reckless wanderers. The idea that they had simply vanished without a trace didn't make sense. Then, on March 2nd, their worst fears were confirmed. The horror on the highway. That morning, authorities in Puebla received a call about an abandoned vehicle on the Cuacnopalan-Oaxaca highway. When officers arrived at the scene, they immediately noticed the blood. Inside the trunk, 4 lifeless bodies were found, stuffed together like discarded trash. Nearby, a tarp covered 5 more corpses, their limbs severed, their faces barely recognizable. A plastic bag sat ominously next to them, filled with severed hands. Hands that had once held dreams, laughter, and love. The crime scene was brutal, calculated. Whoever did this wanted to send a message. Investigators quickly identified the victims as the missing students. The peaceful trip to the beach had ended in pure horror. But the real question remained: who would do such a thing, and why? The sinister figure in the shadows. As authorities scrambled for leads, one name emerged from the darkness: José El Hocha Lavariega. A known gang leader in Oaxaca, Lavariega was no ordinary criminal. He was a man who operated in the shadows, rumored to have deep ties to organized crime. Even more disturbingly, he had once run for political office, a stark reminder of the blurred lines between crime and power in Mexico. Investigators quickly uncovered evidence that Lavariega had lured the students to Oaxaca under false pretenses. The claim? That he needed their help with a series of robberies. But why would a criminal of his stature need young, inexperienced students for such a task? The deeper authorities looked, the more twisted the case became. The cartel connection Oaxaca is no stranger to violence. It's a region where organized crime operates with ruthless efficiency. Cartels control drug trafficking routes, extort local businesses, and eliminate anyone who poses a threat. Lavariega, investigators believed, was involved in a network that thrived on these illicit activities. But in the world of crime, alliances are fragile. Trust is a luxury few can afford. One theory suggested that Lavariega had promised the students protection, leading them into a deadly trap. Another possibility? That a rival gang had viewed them as a threat and decided to make an example of them. In Mexico's underworld, any perceived disloyalty, or even an accidental misstep, can lead to death. And in this case, not just death, but a brutal dismemberment meant to instill fear. The death of the mastermind. The case took an even darker turn when Lavariega himself was found dead. His body was dumped in a separate location, bearing the same level of brutality inflicted upon the students. Next to his remains was a message, a single word scrawled onto a piece of paper. Thief. Was this justice? A betrayal? Or simply another piece of a puzzle that was far from being solved? Whoever killed Lavariega had sent a clear signal. He had crossed the wrong people. A country in mourning, a system in crisis. As the case gained international attention, outrage spread across Mexico. The families of the victims demanded justice, but they knew the odds were against them. In a country where over 30,000 murders are recorded each year, most of them linked to drug cartels and gang violence, justice is often an illusion. Forensic teams worked tirelessly to piece together the remains, offering grieving parents whatever closure they could. But closure in cases like these is never enough. The tragedy of the 9 students wasn't just another statistic. It was a reminder of a broken system, one where young lives are taken without consequence, where corruption shields those who should be held accountable. Vigils were held across Mexico. People marched in the streets, holding up pictures of the victims, demanding answers. But in a nation drowning in crime, how many of those demands would be met with action? The unanswered questions. Despite the evidence, despite the horror, so many questions remain unanswered. Why were these students targeted? Had they unknowingly stepped into a world they didn't understand? Or had someone betrayed them, handing them over to a death squad with no chance of escape? And most disturbingly, who else was involved? Lavariega's death suggests a larger conspiracy, one that may never fully come to light. Was he the true mastermind, or just another pawn in a much bigger game? Will the families ever receive justice, or will this case join the countless others that fade into silence? The harsh reality. Mexico's cartel violence has reached terrifying new levels. Innocent lives are caught in the crossfire, swallowed by a system that seems incapable or unwilling to protect them. For every case like this that makes the headlines, there are thousands more that never do. The 9 students who vanished in February 2025 are no longer just names on a list. They are symbols of a country's crisis, of a generation forced to live in fear. And unless something changes, they will not be the last. Their story is tragic. It is horrifying. But it must not be forgotten. Because somewhere, out there, the people responsible for this crime are still walking free. And until justice is served, their shadows will haunt the highways of Mexico, waiting for their next victims. Their story is one of unimaginable horror, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface. 9 young lives, full of dreams and ambition, were taken in the most brutal way possible. But their names must not fade into silence. Justice remains elusive, and the truth is buried beneath layers of corruption and fear. Yet, we cannot look away. We must remember them, speak their names, and demand answers. Because in a world where such crimes go unpunished, silence is complicity. What do you think? Will justice ever be served? Or will this just be another case lost to history?